Buckle up, folks, because today we're diving deep into a pretty radical approach to leadership. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
It's all about giving employees the power to make most decisions.
Most decisions. Wow, that's a big one.
It is, and we're going to be exploring this idea through the lens of a really interesting book called The Decision Maker by Bakke.
I'm excited to dig into this.
Me too. So this book doesn't waste any time getting to the action. It starts with this crazy scenario
Oh yeah, the opening scene.
at a medical device company called MedTec, and boom, right off the bat, there's a factory explosion.
Talk about starting with a bang.
Seriously. The wild way to kick things off, but it really sets the stage for the core tension in the book.
Traditional management versus employee empowerment, right?
Exactly. Because as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that this explosion wasn't just a random accident.
It was more like a symptom of a much deeper problem.
A symptom of a culture where fear and control reign supreme.
And where employees are essentially kept in the dark and prevented from taking initiative.
There's this one character, Anton, a line worker, who actually noticed warning signs before the explosion.
But he wasn't authorized to shut down the machine.
Can you imagine the frustration of knowing something's wrong but not having the power to do anything about it?
It's a recipe for disaster, and unfortunately, it's a reality in far too many workplaces.
That's what makes this book so relevant. It shines a light on the human cost of these top-down management structures.
And the missed opportunities when people are disempowered and disengaged.
This reminds me of that part in the book where Tom, one of MedTech's new owners, is observing the workers.
He notices that they all have this sort of glazed look in their eyes, like they've checked out.
Like they've lost that spark of passion and initiative
And this really hits home for Tom and his business partner, Jim.
because they've experienced that same feeling of disillusionment in their previous corporate jobs.
And they're determined to create a different kind of environment at MedTech,
An environment where people feel valued and empowered.
where they can actually make a difference.
This is where we get to Tom's big aha moment.
Oh, tell me about this aha moment.
So he's watching his son's basketball game, right? And it suddenly dawns on him
What dawns on him?
that coaches don't try to micromanage every single move the players make on the court.
That's a really interesting analogy.
Right, they trust their players to make decisions in the heat of the game.
To adapt and respond to the ever-changing circumstances.
And that's when it clicks for Tom. He realizes that businesses could operate in a similar way.
By empowering their employees to make decisions based on their expertise and judgment.
So fired up by this epiphany, Tom decides to make a pretty radical proposition to his team.
What does he propose?
He wants to give the employees at MedTech real decision-making power.
I bet that caused quite a stir.
You bet. Starting with something as simple as ordering their own supplies.
Wow, giving them that level of autonomy, even for something seemingly mundane.
Precisely. It's about shifting the mindset from, I need permission, to I have the authority to make this call.
That's a huge shift.
A fundamental shift. And of course, not everyone is on board with this idea right away. Jim, Tom's business partner, he's the more cautious one, the financial guy.
So he's a bit hesitant about this whole thing.
Understandably so. He agrees to a trial run, but he's definitely skeptical.
I can imagine. And what about the employees themselves? How do they react?
Well, that's the fascinating part. Some of them actually push back.
They push back against being empowered?
It sounds counterintuitive, but think about it.
I am thinking about it.
For years, they've been told what to do, how to do it, when to do it.
So suddenly being given this freedom to make decisions can be unsettling.
It could even feel like a burden.
I suppose it challenges their sense of comfort and familiarity.
Exactly. And this is where we start to see how deeply ingrained these traditional power dynamics are.
How they shape our behaviors and expectations even when they might not be serving us well.
This is one of the things that makes this book so compelling. It's not just a theoretical exploration of leadership. It's a story about real people grappling with real challenges.
And trying to create a better way of working together.
But let's get back to those employees who pushed back against this newfound freedom.
Okay, let's talk about them.
Because what's so interesting is that some of them eventually come around.
They embrace the idea of being decision makers.
And when they do, it's like a light bulb goes off.
They start to see the possibilities.
Take Angela, for example. She's the head of HR, and initially she's quite resistant to the idea.
I can see why someone in her position might be hesitant.
Absolutely. But then she starts to really think about it, and she dives headfirst into this new way of thinking.
And what does she come up with?
She proposes some pretty radical changes, like restructuring job descriptions, rethinking compensation, and get this,
Tell me.
she even suggests dismantling the HR department itself.
Wow, that's taking empowerment to a whole new level.
And then there's Vanessa, Tom's administrative assistant.
Her story is fantastic.
She goes from needing constant approval for every little thing to independently managing complex responsibilities.
Like, what kind of responsibility?
Booking travel, handling the company's annual report, you name it.
It's amazing how empowering someone in a role that's often overlooked can unlock so much potential.
And this is just the beginning. The early results of this decision-making experiment at MedTech are pretty remarkable.
Tell me about the results.
They start seeing cost savings, improvements in efficiency, and even a surge in sales.
It sounds like a dream come true.
It does. But as with any good story, there's a twist.
A twist.
We learn about Tom's friend Sam, who tries to implement the same approach at his company.
And it backfires spectacularly.
So it's not a guaranteed recipe for success.
Exactly. Which raises the question, is MedTech's success just a fluke, or is there something more to their method?
It's a good question, and one that we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into this fascinating book.
We will, and just when we think we have a handle on things, another unexpected event throws a wrench into the works.
What happens next?
A near-catastrophic product failure.
Oh, no.
And the source of this error,
Don't tell me.
it's Mike, the head of R&D.
But he's supposed to be the expert. Exactly. He chooses a flawed material despite his years of experience.
So even the most experienced people can make mistakes.
This incident brings up a really important concept from the book, fallibility.
Fallibility.
The idea that everyone is prone to making mistakes, regardless of their expertise or position.
This is a crucial point.
It's about acknowledging our human limitations
And recognizing that we need safeguards in place.
to prevent individual errors from having catastrophic consequences.
Enter the advice process.
Ah, the famous advice process.
So tell me more about this advice process.
Well, it's actually pretty straightforward.
Is it?
Before making any significant decision, employees are required to seek advice from at least 4 people.
4 people. Okay, who are these 4 people?
First, their leader, someone who can provide guidance and context.
Makes sense.
Second, experts in the relevant area, people who have deep knowledge and experience in that specific domain.
Okay, that's 2 down, 2 to go.
Third, those directly impacted by the decision, the people who be affected by the outcome.
To ensure their perspectives are considered.
Absolutely. And last but not least, someone below them in the company hierarchy.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Why someone below them?
It's about gaining insights from different levels of the organization.
And potentially uncovering blind spots?
Precisely. It's about creating a culture of shared responsibility and learning.
Where everyone's voice is valued.
But does this approach actually work in practice?
That's the million-dollar question.
Well, the book provides a pretty compelling example. Remember Anton, the line worker from earlier?
The one who wasn't authorized to shut down the machine?
Yep. Well, he ends up discovering a critical flaw with their new product.
Just before it's about to be released.
You got it. The timing couldn't be worse.
But what happens?
They decide to put Anton in charge of the entire response effort.
Wait a minute. A line worker is put in charge of a major crisis.
That's right. They trust him to lead the way.
This is getting good.
And what's even more amazing is that he not only manages to solve the problem,
He solves the problem.
but he comes up with even better ideas for improving company communication and collaboration.
So he exceeds all expectations.
And get this, the government agency, they're so impressed by his competence and clarity that they commend him for it.
Wow. That's a powerful testament to the transformative potential of this approach.
It shows that when we empower people and give them ownership, we can unlock extraordinary results.
But it's not always smooth sailing, right?
Of course not. There are bumps along the way.
Like what kind of bumps?
Well, we've already talked about Tom's friend Sam, whose attempt to implement the same approach backfired.
Right, that was a cautionary tale.
It shows that it's not a magic formula.
There's more to it than just saying, hey, everyone's a decision maker, now go forth and conquer.
It requires careful thought and a deep understanding of human behavior.
It's about creating a culture of trust and psychological safety where people feel comfortable taking risks and making mistakes,
And it's about recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute.
regardless of their title or position.
So as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, I'm curious,
What are you curious about?
what aspects of MedTech's journey resonate most strongly with you?
I'm struck by the courage it takes to challenge conventional wisdom about leadership and control.
It's about letting go of the illusion of certainty and embracing the messiness of human interaction.
And it's about having faith in people's ability to make good decisions when given the right support and guidance.
It's a radical idea, but one that has the potential to transform the way we work and live.
I'm definitely eager to explore what happens next in this story.
Me too. There are more twists and turns ahead as MedTech navigates new challenges and pushes the boundaries of their unconventional approach to leadership.
I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. Okay, so we left off with MedTech facing a pretty major predicament.
That compliance issue with their new product, remember?
Right, that lurking threat of a potential government investigation.
It felt like all their progress with this new decision-making approach was hanging in the balance.
You'd think that kind of pressure would make them revert to a more traditional top-down style of management.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But that's not what happens at all.
This is where the decision maker really surprised me.
It surprised me too. They actually double down on their commitment to trust and empowerment.
I can't believe they didn't panic and try to seize control.
They make a really bold decision instead.
What do they do?
Ready for this? They decide to put Anton, the line worker, in charge of leading the entire response effort.
Hold on a second. Anton, the same guy who wasn't even allowed to shut down a faulty machine.
The very same.
But how could they possibly entrust him with such a high-stakes situation?
Because through this whole decision-making experiment, he's proven himself to be incredibly competent and insightful.
He's gained a deep understanding of their manufacturing operations.
And they recognize that.
It's amazing how they shifted their perspective on leadership.
It's not about titles or positions anymore.
It's about recognizing and nurturing the potential that exists within each individual.
So how does Anton handle this huge responsibility?
He dives right in with meticulous attention to detail,
Gathering information, seeking advice from experts across different departments.
collaborating with research, manufacturing, legal, everyone.
It's inspiring to see him take ownership like that.
Especially with the pressure of the product launch looming over them.
But Anton doesn't just focus on putting out fires.
He goes deeper.
While investigating, he uncovers a major communication breakdown between the research and manufacturing teams,
Ah, the classic silo effect.
leading to inefficiencies and increased risk of errors.
It's like they were operating in separate worlds.
Anton recognizes that this lack of collaboration is a systemic issue that needs to be addressed.
So what does he do?
He proposes a simple yet brilliant solution,
Let's hear it.
embedding researchers within the manufacturing teams and vice versa.
Creating a constant flow of information and shared understanding.
It's all about breaking down those barriers between departments.
Fostering a truly collaborative environment.
And this solution came from the person who was closest to the problem.
The one who is empowered to not only solve it, but also identify its root cause.
But I'm curious about the government agency.
Oh yeah, how did they react to Anton being the point person?
You won't believe this.
Jeremy.
They were actually impressed by him.
No way. Seriously.
Seriously. They were blown away by his competence, his product knowledge, his clear communication.
It seems they appreciated dealing with someone who truly understood the situation.
It challenges our assumptions about who we consider to be leaders.
And it highlights how empowering individuals benefits not just the organization internally.
But also strengthens their relationships with external stakeholders.
So it's a win-win.
But wait, there's more. The story doesn't end there.
Of course not. There's always another layer.
We still have to deal with the fallout from Ben's decision to skip those crucial environmental tests.
He's the one who ultimately put the company at risk.
So what happens to him?
Tom and Jim grapple with this.
They even consider resorting to a more traditional approach.
You mean reprimanding him, asserting their authority?
Exactly. But they realize that would contradict everything they've been striving for.
So they decide to stay true to their principles.
And they ask Ben to undergo the advice process himself.
He has to seek guidance from the very people he should have consulted with in the first place.
It's not about punishment.
It's about facilitating learning and growth.
Even for those in leadership positions, it's a powerful moment of accountability.
And through this process, Ben gains some valuable insights.
He's forced to confront the consequences of his choices and listen to perspectives he had previously ignored.
It's a humbling experience for sure.
But it also leads to a profound transformation.
Tell me more.
He realizes the damage he's caused and acknowledges that his leadership style has been detrimental to the company.
So what happens to him?
He makes a selfless decision.
What's that?
He steps down from his leadership role, recognizing that he's not the right person to head the manufacturing team.
That's a big decision.
But he's not leaving the company entirely. He wants to stay and leverage his expertise in a more technical capacity.
So he finds a role that's a better fit for his strengths.
Exactly. It's a beautiful example of how empowering individuals can lead to both improved company outcomes.
And personal growth and fulfillment.
But I have to wonder,
What are you wondering?
is MedTech just some sort of utopian ideal?
Can this approach truly work in the messy reality of the real world?
It's a valid question, and Bake doesn't shy away from addressing the potential challenges. He introduces a parallel storyline that serves as a stark contrast to MedTech's success.
Tell me about it.
Remember Tom's friend Sam, who tried to implement similar principles at his company?
The one whose experiment failed miserably.
Right. Well, he reaches out to Tom, expressing his frustration and disillusionment.
What went wrong in his case?
He describes a scene of utter chaos,
Employees making reckless choices, pursuing their own self-interest.
turning the company into a complete mess.
The opposite of what we see at MedTech.
It makes you question whether MedTech's success is just a fluke.
Maybe they just happen to have a particularly exceptional workforce.
This news from Sam really shakes Tom.
It's like his whole belief system is being challenged.
So he turns to his wife Sophia for advice.
Sophia always seems to have a knack for cutting through the complexity and offering valuable insights.
What's her take on this situation?
She suggests that the key difference between Tom's approach and Sam's lies in their underlying motivations.
That's interesting.
Tom genuinely cares about his employees and wants to create an environment where they can thrive.
While Sam was primarily focused on boosting profits,
He saw empowerment as a means to an end, not a value in itself.
it's like the difference between giving a gift out of love versus giving a gift with strings attached.
That's a great analogy.
So Sophia is saying that genuine care is essential for this decision-making model to work.
It's not enough to just go through the motions.
You have to actually believe in people and want the best for them.
It's about creating a sense of mutual trust and respect.
Sophia even compares it to a healthy marriage,
A healthy marriage. How so?
where both partners contribute and support each other without keeping score.
That's a beautiful analogy.
She's saying that because Tom has created this foundation of care and trust at MedTech,
His employees feel a sense of loyalty and reciprocity.
they're motivated to do their best because they know he has their best interests at heart.
It's a positive feedback loop.
While Sam's approach, lacking that genuine care, just fostered mistrust and self-interest,
It's a powerful reminder that our motivations matter.
and that true empowerment stems from a place of authenticity and compassion.
Sophia's wisdom always seems to tie everything together.
The compliance crisis, Ben's transformation, Sam's failure, Tom's unwavering belief in his employees.
It's a reminder to seek out diverse perspectives and challenge our own assumptions.
And speaking of advice,
Yes.
we're about to witness one of the most remarkable applications of the advice process in the whole book. Remember, we left off with Anton trying to figure out how to handle the compliance reporting?
Okay.
He'd gathered information, consulted with experts, facilitated collaboration between teams.
He'd become a master problem solver.
But as he's finalizing his recommendations, he reaches out to Tom for guidance.
I bet this advice session goes beyond just the technical details.
It does. It turns into a deep conversation about the true meaning of leadership.
I'm all ears, tell me everything.
Anton presents his solution for the compliance issue,
Okay.
a strategy that minimizes the financial impact and ensures the product meets all the safety
It
requirements.
sounds good so far.
But then he throws in a curveball.
What does he do?
He recommends that Ben, the head of manufacturing,
The one who caused the problem.
be the one to present the solution to the government agency.
Wait a minute. Are you serious?
It's serious.
But Ben admitted to serious misconduct.
I know it seems crazy, but Anton has a very specific reason for this recommendation.
I'm dying to know what it is.
He believes that giving Ben this opportunity
To take ownership and represent the company.
would be a powerful act of redemption.
It would show that MedTech is committed to growth and accountability even when mistakes are made.
Exactly. And it would send a strong message to the government agency about their integrity.
I love how Anton is thinking outside the box.
He embodies the very principles that Tom has been advocating for.
He sees the potential for growth, even in someone who has made significant errors.
It's a reminder that leadership isn't about being perfect.
It's about fostering an environment where people can learn and grow from their mistakes.
This conversation between Anton and Tom is so profound.
It's the culmination of everything we've been discussing.
Trust empowerment, accountability, the power of human potential.
And it sets the stage for a truly remarkable conclusion to this part of the story.
I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me what happens next.
We're about to witness the outcome of Anton's efforts, the reaction of the government agency, and the celebration of MedTech's success,
Don't miss the final part of our deep dive
where we'll unpack the resolution of this captivating story.
and delve into the lasting impact of the decision maker on our understanding of leadership and human potential.
All right, so where did we leave off? Ah, yes. Anton had just suggested this really unconventional solution to the whole compliance issue.
Letting Ben, the head of manufacturing, be the one to face the music with the government agency.
Talk about putting your money where your mouth is.
It seemed incredibly risky, considering he was the one who caused the problem in the first place.
But then again, this whole decision-making experiment at MedTech has been about challenging conventional wisdom, right?
Exactly. It was a test of their commitment to empowerment, even when facing serious consequences.
And what about Tom and Jim? How did they feel about this whole thing?
They were definitely hesitant at first, but they ultimately decided to trust Anton's judgment,
Remember, this wasn't their call to make, it was Anton's show.
which speaks volumes about the level of trust they had cultivated.
So the big question is, did Ben rise to the occasion?
Oh, he absolutely did.
Tell me everything.
Armed with this solution, Anton and the teams had developed a newfound sense of accountability.
Ben went in to face the government agency.
And he knocked it out of the park. He was honest, he took responsibility, and he presented a clear and comprehensive plan.
And the agency, they were receptive to this.
Surprisingly so. They were impressed by his sincerity and by MedTech's commitment to transparency.
It seems like authenticity can go a long way, especially when dealing with something as serious as a government investigation.
It's like they recognized that MedTech wasn't trying to hide anything,
They were genuinely committed to doing the right thing.
which reinforces this idea that trust and empowerment aren't just internal concepts.
They can actually impact how an organization interacts with the outside world.
So crisis averted, problem solved, right?
Well, for the most part, yes. The government agency approved the solution, and MedTech was able to launch their new product.
But as with any good story, it doesn't end there.
There's always a bit more to uncover, isn't there?
Bake doesn't just leave us hanging with a resolution. He takes us further, showing the ripple effects of this whole experience.
What kind of ripple effects?
We see the company celebrating their success with a big picnic.
A picnic, how lovely.
And it's not just for employees, they invite families and friends too.
It's a real community celebration.
And during the picnic, we get these glimpses into how this decision-making approach has touched people's lives.
Give me an example.
Well, there's this scene with Vanessa Tom's administrative assistant, remember?
The one who blossomed as a decision maker?
Yes. She's beaming with pride as she introduces her son to Sophia, Tom's wife.
It's like her newfound confidence is radiating outwards, impacting her family too.
It shows how empowering employees can create this ripple effect of positivity.
It's not just confined to the workplace.
And what about Jim, the financial guy who was initially so skeptical?
Has he come around?
Oh, he's a changed man. He's relaxed, he's happy, he's even admitting that his focus has shifted.
Shifted away from just the bottom line.
It's like he's finally seeing the bigger picture.
Recognizing that there's more to success than just profits.
Even Helen, their tough investor, acknowledges the positive impact of this approach.
She's impressed by the level of engagement and happiness at MedTech.
Something she'd rarely seen in all her years in the business world.
It's a testament to the fact that empowering employees is not just some touchy-feely idea.
It can actually lead to tangible business results.
So what's the main takeaway here?
For me, it's that genuine care for employees, combined with a willingness to let go of control, can create extraordinary outcomes.
It's about trusting people to rise to the occasion.
And it's about recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute.
The book ends with MedTech acquiring a new facility and implementing their decision-making principles right from the start.
A clear sign that they believe in this approach for the long haul.
It's about creating a sustainable model for success.
And it's an invitation for others to challenge the status quo.
To reimagine the way we work and lead.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the decision maker.
We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of a truly radical approach to leadership.
And that you feel inspired to embrace the power of trust, empowerment, and human potential in your own lives.